Okay, so let's get something out of the way right now. Indecision is not neutral. We treat it kind of like it's the absence of choice, when in reality, it's a choice in and of itself, and it can be a really costly one. A decision not to move, not to commit, not to clarify something. And that non-decision, it still ripples, it still sets a tone, and it still creates outcomes, just usually the wrong ones. And if you're building a business that's meant to evolve without chaos, empowerment design actually requires leaders who don't freeze when the stakes rise. It demands a new relationship with choice. So this is step 7, build decision-making confidence. And today we're talking about designing for decisiveness, not waiting for it to happen, not hoping it arrives when you're feeling bold enough, designing for it systematically, soulfully, practically. Because here's the thing, your ability to make clean, values-aligned decisions is the difference between a vision that becomes reality and one that just lives rent-free in your head forever. Decisiveness isn't just about speed, it's about directional clarity, even when the path isn't fully mapped out yet. It's about anchoring into something deeper than approval or perfection. And it's about being the kind of leader who doesn't just guess, who knows how to move forward because they've designed a rhythm that supports confident choices, even when they're hard. But here's what no one's going to tell you when they say, just be more decisive. You don't build decisiveness in the moment that you need it most. You build it in the moments before that. You build it into your rhythm, your system, your self-awareness, your standards. You build it in your empowerment design philosophy. And then it shows up when the pressure's on, not as panic, but as power. If you've ever frozen up when making a hire, if you've ever delayed launching a new service, or stayed in a broken partnership too long, or even gone back and forth on pricing so many times that you just end up copying what your competitors are doing, this is for you. Because we don't need more information. We need a better framework. We need better instincts and a better understanding of what it means to lead from ownership, not from fear. Let me tell you what I've seen over and over and over again with clients. The issue isn't a lack of intelligence. It's the absence of a container, a mental, emotional, strategic design that holds your decision-making process so it doesn't just unravel when you're stressed, tired, doubting, or distracted, because we all get there. So let's build that. Let's build that container that holds decisiveness, not as a burst of confidence, but as a lifestyle of clarity. First, let's talk about pressure. The pressure you feel to make a right decision. It's paralyzing sometimes, right? But here's the shift. What if right is less about being correct and more about being aligned? What if your job isn't to guarantee a perfect outcome, but to make the decision that honors your values, your people, and your long-term vision? That one shift can change everything. It removes shame, it centers on integrity, and it frees you to move without the fear of being wrong. Because being wrong is a part of growth, but staying stuck, that's where the real danger actually lives. Empowerment design leadership doesn't mean that you'll make every call flawlessly. It means every decision is owned fully, clearly, unapologetically, even when you need to pivot, maybe especially when you need to pivot. So let me take you behind the scenes of a real client story. One of our client partners, we're going to call her Danielle, she was leading a creative agency that had totally plateaued. Her team was super talented, but they became disconnected, and projects were dragging out way too long. Accountability was pretty spotty, and the culture was starting to feel indifferent, like no one cared. She built the structure. She had weekly stand-ups, SOPs. She had a really strong brand. But the problem was that her team didn't know how to make decisions. Oh, and neither did she. Everything got deferred, like, let's wait until next week, or we need to gather more data, or maybe we should just run it by everyone again for the 1,000th time, right? See, no one wanted to be the one to say yes or no. And the longer they waited, the more momentum that they lost. Clients started slipping away, good team members left, and Danielle, totally exhausted. So we came in and we didn't just tell her to decide faster. We helped her design a decision rhythm. We mapped out her decision lanes. What was hers to own? What was her leadership team's? And what could be pushed down to her team with trust. And we anchored her decisions to principles, not panic. And we showed her how to use the 3 lens rules. Every decision needed to pass through purpose, people, and profit. Does it serve the mission? Does it honor our team and culture? Does it make long-term financial sense? And that simple filter, it removed so much noise. And we trained her team to do the same thing, to stop running everything up the chain, to own their slice of the vision, and to decide within their lane and then report on outcomes, not options. So the result was that the culture woke up and accountability actually clicked in. And Danielle stopped spiraling in uncertainty. She wasn't making perfect calls, but she was making real ones. It was fast enough to matter, and it was clear enough to actually move. That's what decisiveness does. It restores momentum, and momentum creates possibility. So let me bring this into you. If you find yourself second guessing constantly, if you're haunted by what if or stuck in should I or shouldn't I spirals, if you've been waiting for someone else to go first, this is your moment to decide something different. Because clarity is not something you wait for. It's something you design. That design starts with a few key anchors. Let's go through them. First, clarify your lanes. What is yours to decide? What should be delegated? What needs to be designed as a group together? When everything lands on your desk, everything's going to slow down. But when you empower others with boundaries, trust, accountability, you speed up without losing alignment. The second anchor, define your filters. How do you evaluate choices? Is it based on who might get upset, or is it based on what your mission demands? Is it about short-term safety or long-term alignment? Set your filters, trust them, let them guide your instincts when emotion flares up. Third anchor, embrace clean pivot points. Now, we all know not every decision is going to land. Some will need course correction. But the stronger your ownership muscle, the easier it is to say, we tried it, we learned, here's the next move. And my friends, shame has no seat at that table. And finally, fourth, we make decisions visible. Your team needs to see how and why you decide what you decide. Not because they need to agree with you, but because they need to understand the design of it. That transparency builds trust faster than perfection ever can or will. Now let's talk real time. What's a decision that you've been delaying? What would happen if you made it today? Not because it's easy, but because it's aligned. What would open up if you trusted yourself to move forward, even without 100% certainty? Because that's the real cost of indecision. It's not about what's not getting done. It's not just about that. It's about who you're not becoming. And empowerment design is not about building structures that make you look good. It's about becoming the kind of leader who leads in real time with wisdom, weight, and grace. Decisiveness isn't a personality trait. It's a design pattern. It's a leadership discipline, and it gets stronger every time you flex it. We're not building a world where decisions are dictated from fear or hierarchy. We're building a culture of clarity where leadership is a ripple, not a bottleneck. Let me tell you one more quick story. The founder we worked with, Jake, he had a growing tech company, but he couldn't pull the trigger on hiring a CEO that he really needed. He kept saying, what if it's the wrong person? Or what if it shifts our culture? Or even just, what if it doesn't work out? But meanwhile, he was drowning. He hadn't taken a real day off in like a year and a half. His team was burned, and the decisions that only he could make were piling up behind him because he didn't have time to make them. So we asked him one question: what is the cost of not deciding? And he paused and he was silent. And then he said, everything I say I want is the cost. So that's when it clicked. He didn't need more time. He needed alignment. He needed the clarity to know that the bigger risk wasn't the hire, it was the hesitation. So he hired. And it took adjustment. It was not perfect, but it was the beginning of his next chapter. And that's what this is about for you too. Not a decision about one offer, one meeting, or one moment, but a shift in identity. You are the designer of your business, your culture, your leadership rhythm. And designers don't wait for clarity. They build for it. They don't chase certainty. They create alignment. And they don't fear movement. They move with meaning. That's what decisiveness looks like. This week, I want to invite you to embody that in your life. Decide something that you've been avoiding. It doesn't have to be massive, but it has to be real. Because every time you practice decisive leadership, you build the muscle that your future is going to depend on. And your future is worth it. DM me the word decide. I'll send you the decision design filter that we use with dozens of our clients. It's a simple framework that helps you move faster, cleaner, and with way more peace of mind because you're deciding from alignment, not from anxiety. And my friends, next week, we're diving into the culture impact of clarity because nothing destroys teams faster than murky leadership. And nothing accelerates ownership like a leader who knows exactly what they stand for and shows it in how they choose and act. Now, until then, don't delay. The next version of your business is on the other side of that decision that you've been afraid to make. So choose powerfully, lead clearly, and let's build what lasts together. See you guys next week.